Hello there. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the toga.
We gotta do something.
Absolutely.
You know what we gotta do? Toga party. You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga!
I think they like the idea, Hoop.
The toga was only worn by free Roman citizens, and it was sometimes worn on the naked body. Can you believe that? Naked. Basically, the toga was a large blanket. It covered your whole body, you know. And there was a tunic. Well, they changed it to a tunic afterwards. They realized the naked thing wasn't really good, so they changed it to a tunic. But there were still some families, you know, who were traditional and cultural, so they changed it. They still went naked. Yep, naked. The toga was about 5 meters long. Well, that's the longest. It was usually like 2.5 to 5 meters long, and it was boys of like reasonably wealthy families that wore it, you know. Oh, they would wear it usually around their 16th birthday. As undergarments, Romans would wear a simply loincloth knotted on each side. This garment appeared to have several names. The most probable explanation for this is that they varied in shape. They were the subligura, obligatus, compare, victim, and chachas.
Roman footwear showed little distinction between male and female. One usually wore sandals tied around the ankle with thin strips of leather. There are 3 main types of traditional: the kaki, the traditional sandal, and then the slipper. There were, of course, other types of footwear. The scolponeia was a wooden clog worn only by poor people. During the 3rd century BC, many Greek barbers moved to Rome and opened barber shops. It was seen as very fashionable for young men to keep a small, well-groomed beard called a barbula. As for hairstyles, they tended all to keep their haircuts short. Roman women wore far more elaborate hairstyles than men. Hairpieces, wigs, hair lotions, and dyes were all known to the Romans. In fact, blonde hair was a sought-after commodity.
Women's dress. The basic female garment was the stola. It was essentially a long tunic reaching to the ground. Silk clothing was available to the rich, but was solely used for female vestments. As for men, it was deemed utterly effeminate until the late Empire. Cloaks and other overgarments were used to protect against bad weather. A variety are known, at times worn over the toga itself, but more often replacing it. The pallium was worn over the tunic or the toga, hence possibly an outdoor vestment of the wealthy. Poor wore cheaper, dull, dark ones. The pinula was a very simple type of cloak. It was put on by simply pulling one's head through the central hole and was normally fitted with a hood.
The most basic Roman garment of clothing would be the tunic. This would just be like what they would put on before going outside. Generally, the male tunic would reach right around the knees, and the woman's tunic would generally be longer. If it ever got cold, the Romans would sometimes wear more than one tunic, maybe 2 or 3. Emperor Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, would be known to wear sometimes 4 tunics. That's a lot of tunics. To separate the different orders of people, there would be a purple stripe on the tunics called a clavis. Senators would be for senators it would be called a latus clavis. And for the equestrian order, it would be called the angustus clavis. The highest class for the tunics would be called the dalmatica. And for the most part, it replaced togas altogether for the people. Children in the ancient Roman times would wear what some people would call a belted tunic, which is basically a tunic just for a smaller person. And they wouldn't level up in clothing until they reached their manhood, usually around age of 16. And for the women, it would be until they got married, because women only reach their manhood when they get married. Also, I'm in the tub.